we are prepared to put our brochure together based on the brochure, trifold brochure template that we created. So this template can be used over and over and over again. You can just launch it anytime you need to create a trifold brochure. This is a double-sided trifold brochure, so you can see that we have 2 pages. We've also labeled them so that based off of our mock-up, our paper mock-up, so we have an 8.5 by 11 landscape. It's 2-sided because you can print on both sides of a single page, and we have folded it in a trifold so it fits in a standard size envelope, but it could also be used as a rack card. We've also labeled pages 1, so that's the front fold, 2, the fold that comes in, the gatefold in the front, and this would be the back panel. So whatever we do on the first panel and whatever we do on the back panel, even if we repeat some images like the logo that we need, even if we repeat that on both of these panels, just because they're on side by side in this view, when it's folded up, they won't have any visual connection at all because one will be on the front and one will be on the back. So think of this as the front cover and think of panel 6 as the back cover. And then when we open up our gatefold trifold brochure, all of these panels will be together. Another note to make is that when you created your trifold brochure, our margins were set for 1/4 inch, so 0.25 inches. When we do a trifold brochure and we create a new document and we set it up for 3 columns, it is a trifold brochure. So if we set it up for 3 columns, it creates these gutters in between those columns. If we want the exact same size panel at our fold lines, from here to here, from panel 6 to panel 1, and then panel 1 to the edge, then we need to just double up what our margins are. So if our margins are 1/2 inch, or sorry, 1/4 inch, 0.25 inches, our gutters will be twice that, so 0.5 inches. So just keep that in mind. Your margins are always half of the gutter, or your gutter is always twice that of the size of the margin. And that should be the rule of thumb there, just to make it easier to remember. Now, if we need a full bleed brochure here, I don't have bleed set up on my document. So did I forget to add that? Well, maybe I didn't, or maybe this brochure is set up to work with images where I don't have bleed. Well, if I want to add bleed, I can still do that at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the menu, and under the window, the menu that says File, Document Setup, I can go to Document Setup under File, and on this right-hand side, I can add bleed. So this is off and closed. I can add bleed after I've opened and created the file. You can add bleed anytime you want. And industry standard bleed is 0.125 inches, or 1/8 of an inch. Once I type in 1, and I am working in inches, so I just want to double check that. If I click on the next one, it automatically fills in the other ones because they are linked together at the end. So now I can click OK, and now I have bleed built in. So I can take advantage of that if I wish or do not need to. I can just keep it inside my margins so that I keep a nice white border around my entire brochure. So now, based on what we have for this particular brochure, I'm now going to have to place all my text. Now, panel 1, panel 6, panel 2, based on the document that was given to us by the client has given us a Word doc. So I'm going to open the Word doc, and I'm going to search for the folder on my desktop, which contains all of that information from the client. So your best bet whenever you create a document, you should have all of the content in one handy folder. So if I go into the folder in which I've added the brochure content, you can see that I have the brochure copy sitting in here. And I also have another folder in which, well, I'm opening a Word doc, so it didn't show everything else in there. But the logos, the headshots, everything I need for this brochure is contained in one simple folder. So based on what the client has asked us to do, our front panel has, it clearly states what we need on our front panel, which would be panel 1. Our first inside panel, panel left, is actually the page 3, 4, 5 based on what our panels are. So the second panel inside middle, our third inside panel right, and then we have what's called the flap, and that's what the client is calling it, and that would be our panel 2, which is attached to panel 6 and 1 on the first page. So all of this has to be put in there. These are our headshots because we have quotes. We're going to put the headshots with those. And then we have the back panel, which is panel 6. So we have all this great information here. Now, do I copy from the Word doc and paste it into InDesign? Good question. And the answer would be no. So with this brochure copy that is all prepared in here, what I'm going to do, and what your best bet is to do, is to move your page over to the right so that you're working with the pasteboard off to the side. So think of this as your piece of paper you're going to take all these elements and glue them to and place them on this white page. So I'm going to, we never copy paste, we'll always file place. So here we go, place or Control D. And I'm going to locate the brochure content folder and select the IC brochure copy. And open that. I'm missing the fonts that are in that original file. Don't worry about it. Why? Because we're probably going to set up our own style of fonts. And what I can do is I can simply click to place the file, or I could have clicked and dragged. And you can see that I am missing the fonts because I have a pink box in behind it. But that's okay. We're going to place all the text on each panel where we need it, and then we're going to set up our text. So I'm going to use my Control key. It's your Command key on a Mac, which I'm on, and it's the Control key on a PC to toggle back and forth. You can see I'm toggling back and forth from the text tool to the selection tool. So just by holding down the Control key on a PC, Command key on a Mac, you can toggle back and forth the last tool you have selected in the toolbox and the selection tool. So what I'm going to grab here is I need these 3 key pieces, so front panel, these 3 lines, and I'm going to Control C to copy. And to place that text and copy that text into panel 1, I'm simply going to click and drag a text box. I'm actually going to fill this entire panel right to the margins, and I'm going to Control V or Command V on a Mac to paste that in. All right, I've got my copy for page 1, so I'm actually going to get rid of this. There we go. And I'm going to move on to first inside panel left. So that's these sets of lines. That's all there is. Now, first inside panel, according to our mockup, Command or Control C, is actually down here on panel 3. So once again, I'm going to click and drag a text box and fill the entire box here, and Control V or Command V to paste that in. Go back up here and select that information and delete. So as I copy and paste into the panel, I'm going to delete it from my pasteboard here and just work my way until I have no text left. So now I have the second inside panel, which is the middle panel, which is panel 4. So here we go. I'm going to, and we're going to take out this edit right here. We don't need the client's edits. That's smaller font in 2 columns. So we're just going to get rid of that text. Second inside panel. Can I see everything here? No. So with my Control key or Command, I'm going to get the black arrow so I can see as much text until I hit the next panel. Great. So now I can select all of this text for that center panel, the second panel middle. Here we go. And I'm going to Control C or Command C. Go to panel 4 and again click and drag a text box to fill the entire panel inside the margins. and paste. You can see I've got a red plus sign, which means all my text doesn't fit. Once we play with the text and the text size, we'll fix that. So we go back here and I can get rid of all that text. And now I'm on the third inside panel, right? So I'm going to select all of this text, copy it, and move on to panel 5 and paste it. So I'm just following what the client wants, where the client wants the text. And let's get rid of that. And last but not least, we have the flap. So I'm just going to get rid of all of this text here. Here's the flap. I'm going to Control C, move over to panel 2 because that's our flap when we lay out our mock-up, our paper mock-up. That's the flap that folds over top. And paste that into place. And one more, so I'm going to get rid of all this, the back panel. So now I'm going to select all of this text and I'm going to copy it, and our back panel is panel 6 according to our paper mock-up. I'm going to paste that into place. And now I can get rid of, I can use my Control key to go back to the selection tool, click on the text box, and delete it so I no longer have it on my pasteboard. So now I have now copied from the placed Word doc the text that is needed according to the client's placement. I've copied and pasted in individual text boxes all the text I need on each panel. So now that I've done that, now it's time to set up the text to make it look pretty, as one of my colleagues used to say or comment on how I do my work. Just make it look pretty. Because it doesn't right now, we're also missing the fonts. So at least we have everything into place. So your first step, open your template. Your second step is to file place your Word doc off to the pasteboard. Step 3 is to copy and paste each textual element based on the recommendations from the client as to which panel they go on. Step 4 is to click and drag a text box inside that panel, inside the margins here, and paste each component onto each panel until you have all your text in place. And check out the next tutorial on setting up your text.